Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Global Travel Update for this last Wednesday of August 2025. Hope you're having a great time wherever you happen to be. We are in Costa Rica. In fact, we are on Peninsula Papagayo at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve. This is an amazing location where I've got monkeys in the trees above me and whales breaching in the Pacific below me. It's quite an experience. Unfortunately, we're only here broadcasting for one day and whales up again tomorrow. The usual in my schedule, but at least I'm still on the move and still standing and happy to join you today. There's so much to talk about in the news. And let's start with, as we get ready for Labor Day weekend, some interesting developments in the airfare wars, simply because we're coming into a quarter that's traditionally not full, into another quarter beyond that that's usually never full, and we just had a summer that was not full. And the airlines are adjusting accordingly. Consider this year alone, from February to now, there's been a 44% drop in Canadian visitors, a 28% drop in German visitors, 25% drop in Spanish visitors, about an 18% drop in United Kingdom visitors. Here's one that people didn't count on, a 15% drop in Korean visitors. And as a result, going into the September months and October, the airfare wars are already starting. Now, think about this. They may not kick in until October 5th, but you can book them now. Listen to these examples. LA to Athens, $125 each way. LA to Paris, $132 each way. New York to London, a $129 one-way ticket going round trip, double it. Now, obviously, that's basic economy. It goes up from there, but that's unheard of. And that'll give you an idea about load factors going into the final part of 2025. Again, you can book them today. They start kicking in around October 5th. They do not go endlessly. They'll probably end around the 1st of December as we get into the Christmas holiday season. And then they'll probably kick back in after about January 7th. But at least you now know what's going on with that. It's going to be a crowded Labor Day weekend on the roads, as domestic travel still is very full. But then that drops off right away. Kids are back in school. Another reason why airfares are now going to be dropping even domestically. And we will stay on top of that as we go along. Now, the other stuff we want to talk about is a little crazy. An update on Southwest Airlines and they're changing their baggage fees. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I was at a check-in gate at LaGuardia on a Southwest flight, and they made an announcement on a full flight that not enough bags had been checked in. Think about that, right? Not enough bags had been checked in so that if you came up to the gate, they would check your bag in for free. They said only 50 bags have been checked in. Well, what did they do? They really angered the other 50 people who paid for their bags to be checked in. We had to take a 25-minute delay while all these bags showed up at the jetway. And then we get on the plane and the overhead bins are empty. Somebody needs to explain this to me. Well, this happened the other day, even crazy. There was a young kid ready to board the flight, and he had his carry-on bag and his personal item, and in his hand he had an 8x10 framed picture. That was it. And the gate agent declared that a third item and made him check a bag. Southwest, you are not engendering goodwill here. Stop it. It reminds me of a story that happened to me many years ago, which became the lead story on MSNBC when I was at NBC. I was flying from Atlanta to Orlando. I had my carry-on bag and my laptop bag, and on the way to the gate, I stopped at the newsstand and bought a New York Times, a Wall Street Journal, and a bag of gummy bears. I got to the gate. I was stopped and told the gummy bears was an illegal third bag, and I had to check one of the bags. I said, it's a bag of gummy bears. And this automaton gate agent said to me, if you don't check the bag, you can't board the flight. I said, okay, tell you what we're going to do. we're going to check the gummy bears. And I hereby declare excess valuation in the amount of $5,000. Get out your paperwork. I'm going to insure those gummy bears for $5,000. And she still didn't get it. And then it suddenly dawned on her that she was holding up the entire boarding process, and the losses that Delta were going to take were far greater than the cost of one bag of gummy bears. So then she said to me, okay, pack the gummy bears inside one of those bags, and I'll let you on the plane. I said, what do you think the first thing I'm going to do is when I get on the plane? I'm opening the gummy bears. This is the kind of ridiculousness we're dealing with now. And nobody's going to get an A in their term paper about this. They're going to have to close the school. Wake up. All right. Now, having said that, speaking of ridiculousness, there are 2 class action lawsuits right now being filed against 2 U.S. airlines for doing what? The famous upsell on seats. You know, if you buy a ticket today on many airlines, then it says, would you like to choose your seat? So now you go to their seating chart, not the Seat Guru seating chart, but their seating chart. And almost every seat has a value attached to it if you want to pick one, right? The further back on the plane, the lesser amount. Further closer to the front, more amount. Want a window seat? Guess what? Higher amount. Why is there a class action lawsuit? Because 2 of these airlines insisted on selling quote unquote window seats for up to $169 premium. And when the passenger got there, there was no window, it was a wall. Why is that? Airlines are cramming more seats into the plane than they were originally designed for in terms of that configuration. So there you go, bait and switch. And the biggest insult, airlines determine that the closer the seat to the front of the plane, the more you have to pay for it. How many times have I been told I got an upgrade from Delta and they moved me from my window seat in row 17 to a middle seat in row 8? Who wants a middle seat? Why is that an upgrade? This has got to stop. And we'll be interested to see how this suit ends up in court. My guess is it'll never get to court. It'll be settled because the airlines are desperate about setting precedent legally. But we will follow that one as well. All right, here's a fun one for you. Airport codes, those 3-letter airport codes. Now, most of my frequent flyers watching today can tell you in their sleep what LAX means, or MIA, or ORD, or JFK, or SFO. Right, but what are the three-letter codes that have maybe a double meaning or might be considered insulting? Consider this. In India, the Gaya International Airport, you know what their 3-letter code is? Gay. They've been trying to change it. No dice. In Fresno, what's the 3-letter city code? FAT. F-A-T. They've been trying to change it. No luck. My favorite is Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I love this 3-letter code. In fact, I actually got a little sticker from them to be able to put on my wall. Their 3-letter code is SUX. It sucks. And then the one that I won't complete the sentence on for obvious reasons is the airport in Japan, Fukuoka. They've been trying for a long time to change that 3-letter code to FUN. No luck. And you can imagine the 3-letter code they're stuck with for Fukuoka. Okay, just thought I'd share that with you today. All right. Now, one little fun fact. The Wall Street Journal ran a little quiz this week about fun facts about airlines and airports. And this one I didn't get right, but I'm going to share it with you. It's all about denied boarding. And last year, Delta only bumped, think about this, only involuntarily bumped 1 passenger. How's that for being a good airline? Congratulations to Delta. Remember, involuntarily bumped, meaning they asked for volunteers and got them, but in one case, they had to involuntarily grab one and throw them off the plane, obviously give them some compensation, right? Okay. That was 1 passenger for the entire year of 2024. How many did American Airlines involuntarily bump? Who wants to guess? I got this one wrong. I didn't realize it was this high. 13,200. That's inefficiency. And that costs the airline money. And it costs a lot of people time. Okay, last little item here before we get to your questions and other fun stuff. Tomorrow is the day Amtrak launches new train service on the Northeast Corridor with a whole new set of advanced trains, all new stock. They have 5 different trains going as of tomorrow between Washington, D.C., and Boston, obviously with stops at Penn Station in New York. You're not going to get there much faster because that's the condition of the tracks, but the new trains can go up to 160 miles an hour. To put that in perspective, the current trains go up to about 150, but don't get too excited. They can only go up to about 150 miles an hour for about 30 miles of track. If they want 150 more than that, they derail because the tracks are in such bad shape. But the good thing about these trains are the insides of the trains. The seats are better. The interior design is better. The flow and space is better. They've got really high quality 5G Wi-Fi and plugins everywhere. They've done a good job there. So I'm looking forward to taking the Acela in the days and weeks ahead. Even though they have more trains to put online, they're not going to go online for a while on the rest of the system for a while. But at least on the Northeast Corridor, those trains start running tomorrow. Okay. I saved one more for you. You know, in the world of AI, not my favorite topic, but in the world of AI, how about the La Quinta Inn in Sunrise, Florida? When you go to check in there, there's no check-in counter. It's a video screen. They've outsourced check-in to a video, and you're talking to somebody and you have no idea even where they are. Really? Count me out. They think that's progress. I think that's insulting. All right, and certainly not under my definition of hospitality. I hope you will agree. All right, let's stream and say hello to everybody. Jim and Harriet, always on board from Richmond, Virginia. Our good friend, the captain, Jonathan Atkin. I hope you will discuss how crews on some cruise ships are likely to avoid working on board ships that make U.S. port calls due to the ICE and CPB actions. We've talked about this, Jonathan. It's happened on a couple of ships. It happened on the Victory Cruise Line, the brand new Victory Cruise Line. It happened on their Great Lakes cruises. It's happened to Carnival in Norfolk, Virginia. And what's really, to me, really troublesome is they're pulling off crew members who are hardworking, who earn all that money to send back to their families. They're dedicated. They've been there for many years. And once they pull them off, there's no due process. They literally put them on a plane within 24 hours and fly them out of the country. Is this the United States of America? Apparently it is. And I don't like to get into politics, but I do like to get into common sense. And while we're on the subject of the Constitution, let's get into that. What am I missing here? So, Jonathan, we are talking about it. And a number of legislators, as you know, are involved in it. All right, let's keep going. Willie says, greetings from Denver. I hope you're enjoying Costa Rica. It's one of my favorites. There's a lot to enjoy about Costa Rica. Imagine a country with no standing army, where all their money goes into natural resources and education. 70% of Costa Rica is national forest and preserved. And where I am right now, really at the gateway to the Pacific, here in the Peninsula Papagayo, I mean, you can't hear anything other than birds and monkeys. And the view is spectacular. I wish I could show it to you, but you're seeing it in a reflection behind me. And a wonderful opportunity for people to come visit. Of course, I've been all over Costa Rica, places like Tamarinda, where you see the giant leatherback turtles come to lay their eggs. These prehistoric beings you watch them with infrared light at night once a year. Their sense of radar is unbelievable. And the attempt here in Costa Rica to really focus on sustainability cannot be overstated. They're doing a great job. All right, moving right along. Tayo is saying, paying $60 more for a seat in the front is ridiculous, but I see it might be worth it for people who need to get off the plane quickly to catch a connecting flight. That's not what you paid for the seat. You see what I'm saying? What do you pay for when you pay for a better seat? Comfort on the flight, not the ability to bolt off. Because if you're paying for that, then there's something wrong with the efficiency and the scheduling of the airline. Again, airline scheduling is nowhere near matching airport capacity. Why are the airlines allowed to schedule 40 departures at 8 o'clock in the morning when most runways can only handle 23 takeoffs in a given hour? Right? I mean, I'm not getting this. Well, I am getting it. I just don't like it. And this is the opportunity for the U.S. Department of Transportation to do some serious rulemaking. Airlines are doing scheduling not to benefit you, but to be competitive on the optics. to make you think you're leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, not necessarily. Even if you push back at 8, you're not getting to that runway in time. So I agree with you. I agree with me. I'm not paying $60 for a seat closer to the front of the plane if the airline can't do their job to get me there in time in the first place. If I'm going to be that late, I'll stick in the back and read a book and then schedule a later connecting flight, which we've talked about on this show all the time. Give yourself at least 2.5 hours to connect on any domestic flight and 3.5 to 4 hours on any international flight. If not for you, then for your bags. Okay. Charlie's saying hi from Baton Rouge. Hello, Charlie. By the way, you can watch Hidden Louisiana on PBS, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV Plus. There's your plug for Charlie. Okay. Willie says, I'm sorry they gave you such a hard time about gummy bears. By the way, that story ended up running on MSNBC, and the lead story headline that night was Gummy Bears, Taste Treat, or Luggage. Highly rated, by the way. All right. Thomas saying, is Boeing too big to fail? Are lobbyists bigger than the House? Why can't common sense things ever get done? I mean, these guys fly and have families that fly. Don't they want to be safe? You're raising an issue that we can spend the next week talking about. Boeing right now is too big to fail, not because of their commercial plane division, but because of their contracts with the U.S. government. They build planes for every branch of the government, from the State Department to all branches of the military, and even the agriculture department. So the argument that Boeing and their lobbyists have always used, if you hurt us, you hurt yourself. And look, and Boeing gobbled up McDonnell Douglas. There's no more Lockheed. There's no more Convair. There's no more anything. It's Boeing and maybe Embraer in Brazil, and of course Airbus in France. But the order books for Airbus right now are full. If I went to Airbus today and asked to buy a plane, I'd be told to wait 4 or 5 years. That's not much of a choice. And what's happened in the case with Boeing and the families of the 2 crashes that happened with the Boeing 737 MAX is pure wrong. It's an abuse of a solid criminal case. It's just giving them a free pass in which so many innocent people were killed. And if you think I'm making a political statement, try to burn me for that. But I'm not. The facts speak for themselves, and every prosecutor will tell you, based on that case and what was brought to trial, people should have gone to jail. I'm standing by that. And I agree with the families that justice was not done. And just giving Boeing a fine to pay, they didn't just do it once, they've done it twice. And telling them not to repeat their behavior didn't stop them from repeating their behavior. And now, when they got caught again, did they go to trial? No, they paid a bigger fine. To them, it's just the cost of doing business. Look, I have always been a fan of American aerospace. I still have a leather jacket from Boeing that I bought at a time when the bumper sticker said, if it's not Boeing, I'm not going. You don't see a lot of those bumper stickers today. I want them to do better. But you know what? If you allow bad behavior to continue without serious consequences, it will continue because of the economic imperative, both ways. If there are serious economic consequences and criminal consequences, the behavior has nowhere to go but stop. If you don't, they just write a check and the behavior finds a way to continue. This is wrong. I'm not shy about this, by the way. Okay. Tayo says, Peter, can you explain when the airlines offer you a future flight voucher when they overbook their flights and ask for volunteers to give up their seats? Is there a catch here? No. Here's what happens. Let's say the plane is overbooked with legitimate passengers holding a reservation. They will then ask for volunteers who want to give up their seats for a cash compensation and a future flight that day or the next day. Sometimes, so that cash compensation is a voucher good for a cash application against a future flight. Okay? Well, let's say nobody gives up their seats. Then we get into denied boarding compensation where you are involuntarily bumped. And that compensation gets much higher. I hope that explains it. But keep in mind that if you get one of those vouchers before you accept it, make sure you're very clear with the language in those vouchers because it differs. You want a voucher that's good on any IATA carrier, or at the very least, good for at least 1 year on any of their flights without any restrictions. No space capacity controls, no exclusions on route. Okay, that's what it's got to be. Okay. Red says, watching from Autumn Weather, Omaha. Okay. Also, these airline credit cards where you have to spend $2,000-$3,000 or so within months to get the bonus miles. You say it seems financially idiotic. Bing, 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 bing. Winner, you're right. Average credit card interest rates are 25%. So what are you doing? You're spending money on your card. Most people don't pay their balance in full every month, so you're accruing interest to get 25,000 bonus miles that basically gets you nothing. The airlines are under no mandate to redeem miles at a reasonable level or ever. There are no controls on the frequent flyer programs. So we're addicted to chasing miles for a redemption we may never get, paying interest at such a high price. Look, if I loaned you money at 25%, I'd go to jail. But the banks are allowed to loan you money through their credit cards of up to 30%. I just said the average was 25%. So by the time you get to a mileage level that you've earned on your credit card, paying it off monthly to get a quote unquote free ticket, you spent $9,000 for that ticket. Even I can do that math. So you're right. Jeff is saying on a recent Zip Air flight from Singapore to Narita, the gate agent wanted to check my roller bag. I kept arguing and he relented to allow me to carry it on. By the way, I rebooked the flight to avoid stopping in Fukuoka. We know the 3-letter code, Jeff. Thank you. Okay. Willie says, it's always been my understanding that anything purchased in the airport didn't count towards the bag count. I guess Southwest doesn't abide by that anymore. No, they don't. Joyce saying, going on Norwegian Cruise Line in August of next year, is this the ship where you find less children? Well, we have to be specific about it. You have to tell me the ship and the itinerary. You already told me the time of the year, which means there could be kids on board because school is out, right? And remember, and there's never a guarantee that there won't be a lot of adults on board acting like children. But at least give me the name of the ship and the itinerary. I'll try to help you out. Jonathan just added about the people who have been taken off cruise ships and flown home. They're not allowed to even apply to return for 10 years. This is draconian. All right, Charlie in Louisiana saying he hopes to visit Costa Rica next year. You will not be disappointed, Charlie. All right, Zora says, why does NCL, why don't they offer the Greenland and Iceland in one voyage? Well, you know why? Because they turn their ships in different ports at different times of the year. Now, there are some cruise lines that do. I believe, I may be wrong, Viking does. So check that out. All right. Estrella says, how dangerous is it for two women to travel around Morocco? Not dangerous at all. Look, you haven't told me where in Morocco, but if you're going to Marrakesh or Casablanca or Fez, you know what? I'm assuming you're staying at a hotel. You can hire a guide. You're traveling in a pair. You should be fine. Now, having said that, whether you're going to Morocco or Miami, who says in the guidebook that you have to wear all your expensive jewelry or designer clothes, or watches? You're traveling. Leave it at home. Just have a good time. Okay. Did I see that the United flight to Greenland is returning next year? Yes. They put it on as part of their new route expansion this year. It's a seasonal flight. They're going to go back next year. Greenland is one of the hot places to go. Right? Last couple of years was Iceland. Now it's Greenland. Okay. Pamela saying hi from Silverdale in Washington. Ingrid saying, have you ever testified to Congress? Have been asked to. No, they don't want to hear from me. But if I'm asked to testify, it depends on what they're asking me to testify about. If they want to say, are you now or have you ever been an angry passenger? I can tell the truth on that. Okay. I see. All right. Well, Zora didn't have a good experience on Viking, but they did go to Greenland and Iceland. Okay, let's continue now. I want to show you a very funny photo. I can't tell you how this started. I can only tell you that it happened. And the caption I'd be giving with my demented sense of humor is, this is what happens if I don't get my upgrade at the counter. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The check-in desks at the Milan airport on fire. Happened a couple of days ago. And obviously they put the fire out. And we'll find out what happened. But it was such a powerful image for me. I'm not encouraging anybody to torch a check-in desk, but somebody did. All right, moving along. By the way, that happened at the Milan airport, otherwise known as Malpensa. Let me translate that for you. Which idiot, that's right, which idiot thought it was a good idea to name an airport Bad Thought? Malpensa. Who knew? All right. Anyway, a couple other things. Which airports in the U.S. are the worst for lost luggage? Not which airlines, which airports as a whole. It might surprise you. All right, what's the winner? Anyone want to guess? It's Miami, followed by O'Hare, followed by Denver, and then Dallas. And I might add that in every one of those airports, if you haven't had this experience, you will, while they're very specific about how you check in a bag, they don't really care how you get your bag. There's no security on those conveyor belts. Anybody can walk up and walk out with any bag they want, especially if you're coming in on an international flight and you're stuck at customs or immigration. Those bags will be going around that belt for a long time. Anybody can walk off. Whatever happened with matching bags with the bag tags and a passenger ID? Aren't we all in favor of that? What will it take you? Another minute to keep the right bag associated with you? And by the way, sometimes it happens accidentally. How many of you travel with black bags? Duh. You need to double check your bag tag against the bag and your ID. If they won't do it, you do it. Okay? All right. Some preset questions. Let's do that. Okay. Jeff says, my travel friends, Air Canada flights from Haneda in Japan to Toronto and then Dulles were canceled last week. They were soon rebooked Haneda to Dulles on a nonstop on UAL, so they lucked out to a better deal. Yeah, kudos to both Air Canada and United during the Air Canada flight attendant strike for making a deal with their Star Alliance partner, United, to honor Air Canada tickets. In the old days, they used to have a gentleman's agreement among many airlines to do that. That went away. In this case, it kicked back in. And you know what? Everybody was better off because of it. So 3 cheers to both United and Air Canada. By the way, Air Canada's back. Strike is over. Okay, Charles says, what's the best time to visit Bermuda? Well, I'm a big off-season person. I'm not going to Bermuda to get a suntan, although many people do. I like going to Bermuda in January and February. It's a little cooler. There may be a fire in the fireplace, but the culture is the same, and I love it. So there you have it. Okay. Constance says, I'm flying from Ecuador to Palm Springs. I have a stop in Panama and a stop in San Francisco. Do I go through customs in San Francisco? If I go through customs in San Francisco, do I have to claim my luggage there and then recheck it to Palm Springs? Anytime you're flying to the United States and then connecting on, with the exception of countries that have pre-clearance, that would be Ireland, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Abu Dhabi, and Canada. Yes, at your first U.S. port of entry, you get your bags, which are already pre-tagged to your final destination. You go through customs, and then as you leave customs, there's an additional belt right there, a connecting belt that you put it on that will get it to your next flight. Unfortunately, you're still going to have to go outside and come back through security, probably coming through a different terminal, but that's how you do it, okay? Roger says, do I have a recommendation for travel medical insurance for my upcoming trip to Germany? Well, there are a number of organizations that offer it that I like. I like Berkshire Hathaway, I like Travel Guard, and I like MedJet Assist, which is beyond that. It's basically medical evacuation and repatriation insurance. So check all 3 of those out. Again, you can buy that through a travel advisor who can walk through you, and you need to be walked through the language in each policy to make sure you qualify. Some of these policies have either pre-existing medical conditions or age conditions, different premiums for different ages. So check that out. But of the three I mentioned, I like all three of them in general. Robin says, we're considering a safari trip when flying to Johannesburg, South Africa. We're both seniors and we're worried about the flight. Our closest major airport is LAX. Well, you're not going to make it nonstop. You know that. But there's a way to do it. Take a look at United and Delta, either out of Atlanta or Newark, that'll give you one-stop service with then a nonstop to South Africa. That's probably the way to go. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to the photo of the week. Now, what do I like about this photo? First, kudos to Sandy Smith. She writes, this is a completely undoctored photo that I took of the Matterhorn. That's right, in Zermatt, in Switzerland. The cloud formed a heart shape as we were standing on the bridge. If you look closely, you'll see that heart shape. We love it. And, other than that, it's just a regular photograph, but it's the heart shape that makes the difference. Thank you for that, Sandy. And if you think you have a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know exactly what to do. It's photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you that it belongs up there with Sandy's, it goes right up there next to Sandy's. I'm going to scroll down very quickly here before we run out of time. Okay. Jonathan says, I arrived from Athens at JFK and anyone can take your bag. You're right. Absolutely. Look, it's basically common sense. And Robert says, Monterey Car Week just ended. In order to go next year and have a decent hotel rate, I just tried to book a room at my favorite hotel. It's already nearly sold out, of course. Look, everybody knows 3 years in advance where the Super Bowl is going to be. They just don't know who's playing. So those books get block books ahead of time. Block booked. So let me tell you one way around it, which might surprise you if you want to be a little crafty. This goes for the Olympics or FIFA or, you don't know where the World Series is going to be played, but you do know where the Super Bowl is going to be played. And you know where the bowl games are going to be played. You just don't know who's playing, right? All right. So let's say you want to go to Monterey Car Week next year. All right. And you just wanted to go to your hotel. What did you do? You went online, didn't you? All right. Well, what you want to do now is get on the phone. I know it's a newfangled contraption, but you can try it and ask to speak to the director of sales at your favorite hotel and say, look, I know you're showing sold out, so I'm not asking to book a room right now, but can you tell me who's got the big room blocks at the hotel for the show? And if you can't find out from her or him, you can find that out. You have plenty of time. You have a year's head notice, right? Here's a year's head start. So what do? 3 weeks before the show, you call the company or group that has that block and say, are you going to be using all of your appropriated rooms? Well, actually, we've got 3 no-shows. Good. Can I take one of them off your hands? You know what? That's revenue they'll never get. They'll give you a discount. That's how I've gone to a couple of Super Bowls, right? Buying a room off a room block that was not fully subscribed later in the game, meaning prior to the game, of course, no pun intended, but later in the booking cycle. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Okay. Tanya just saw my royal tour in Tanzania. I'm glad you liked it. Okay. Any update? Oh, Tom wants to know any update on Southwest going to Iceland. They've announced they want to go. They haven't announced when. I can guarantee it will not be this year. They'll probably try to do it about May of next year. It'll be seasonal, just like those United flights to Greenland. A couple of housekeeping notes. Travel Detective Season 10 is on the air now on PBS, Amazon, Apple TV Plus, and YouTube. Please check your local listings or your local streamings. Coming up next month, you'll see news about our new series of specials called Hidden. We'll be having Hidden Malta, Hidden Hong Kong, Hidden Egypt, Hidden Alabama, Hidden Maine, Hidden Tahiti, and many others. So stick around for those. In the meantime, I'm going to go listen for monkeys and watch some whales and then finish our other broadcast here in Costa Rica. I will see you next week for another global travel update. In the meantime, feel free to write me, Peter at petergreenberg.com, with any questions we didn't get to today or didn't answer or new ones that you've come up with. And I'll be glad.